This is the Pipeline Podcast, where you'll get to know the next generation of Columbus Blue Jackets. Let's see who's coming down the pipeline today with your host, Dylan Tyrer.
All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Pipeline Podcast. I should call this a special edition of the Pipeline Podcast because I'm joined by Jeff Svoboda. And Jeff, we're going to talk a little World Junior Tournament. And, just to get started here, you might not be familiar with the World Junior Tournament, but it's something that I have really enjoyed for the past few years. It's, something that Canadians in particular really get excited about. I think, Jeff, and, correct me if I'm wrong or if you have a different opinion, but in Europe, people get excited about the World Championships there, the men playing. In North America and Canada in particular, people get more excited about this World Junior Tournament, the next crop of great players, and that's why I love it so much.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. And you are right. I think the World Championships are bigger, certainly bigger in Europe than they are here. And I think that's because the Stanley Cup playoffs are happening here, usually when the World Championships are happening. But the World Juniors has become kind of a holiday tradition here in North America. It's certainly huge in Canada. I think it's gotten bigger here in the States as the years have gone by. But it's become the kind of things you said, the future of hockey. There's a really good chance that almost everybody on the Canadian team, when you watch these games over the next couple of days, if you do watch the games, will be playing in the NHL someday. And there's going to be NHL players on pretty much every team that's in this tournament, future NHLers. And there's going to be guys that within the next 2 to 3 years are playing at the NHL level. So it is really cool to watch, in my opinion. You get to see the guys you'll be watching down the road. You get to kind of already start to know who some of the top players in the future are going to be. And you also get to watch, kids pouring their hearts out, basically, for their nations, which is always fun to watch as well. So it's become, especially last year, as we were kind of sitting there and going through the pandemic with no NHL hockey, and who knows how much NHL hockey we're going to have this year, this time around. It really is entertainment, must-watch viewing, just because it is such good hockey, and there's so much interest in it here in the States and in Canada.
Yeah, I can't wait for the tournament to start. If, you're unaware of when it's going to start, December 26th, game number 1. The tournament will end January 5th. And, just a brief overview here of what the World Junior Tournament is. It's held every year by the International Ice Hockey Federation, IIHF. It's the top 10 U20 national teams competing against each other. So you're going to see Russia, you're going to see the Czech Republic, United States, Finland, Canada, all teams like that. And it's this year being held in Edmonton and Red Deer, Alberta. So a couple of different locations up there where these teams are going to be facing off. And Jeff, it's a huge tournament, a lot of interest, obviously, in Canada, in the United States. I'm sure our listeners and viewers here are curious to see what Team USA is going to look like. But the way that Jeff and I wanted to get together and do this is kind of tell the story of the World Juniors from a Blue Jackets perspective. By all accounts, what Jeff and I believe to be occurring here, because some of the rosters aren't officially set yet. We're not really going to know until the tournament starts, but it looks like 3 Blue Jackets prospects will be in the tournament. Stanislav Svozil for Team Czech Republic, Samuel Kanashko for Team Slovakia, and of course the 5th overall pick at this summer's draft, Kent Johnson for Team Canada. So Jeff, I want to tell the story from the Blue Jackets perspective. So we'll talk a little bit about each one of these guys, what they've done so far for their teams this season. Of course, Svozil and Kanashko playing in the WHL right now, Kent Johnson at the University of Michigan. So we'll talk a bit about what those guys have done already and what they look like as Blue Jackets prospects going forward. Before that, just so everybody knows, Team USA looking to defend their title at the World Juniors last year, the 2020-2021 tournament. Team USA won over Team Canada. So, Team Canada looking to avenge their loss in the title game last season. But Jeff, let's start off talking about Svozil. What do you know about him?
He's a guy that I really like. 3rd round draft pick of the Blue Jackets in this summer's NHL draft, the 2021 draft. Saw him play a lot up at the Traverse City tournament when he was a defenseman for the Blue Jackets there. Had played against men in his native Czech Republic last year, was in the Extraliga, which is the top league over there, and really played well for a guy of his age. Only 18 years old when he was drafted by the Blue Jackets. Some people had said, some rankings actually had him as a potential 1st-round pick when they were putting together kind of the mock drafts, and he fell to the Blue Jackets down in the 3rd round. Really a two-way guy. I think really kind of forecast as being, maybe a 2nd or 3rd pair defenseman at the NHL level, but he's got some offensive creativity. And he's also got, defensive chops, which you have to have being a defenseman, and especially playing at the levels he's played at, against men in his home country and now in the WHL. And he, decided to come over. He's playing with some pretty good players up there in Regina. And, Connor Bedard's one of those. I think we'll talk about him as we go. But, he's on a team that's being watched quite a bit. And he's got a pretty good skill set. The one play he made up in Traverse that really impressed me, he was playing on the left side on defense and took a pass and someone, I forget which team it was, kind of came out to challenge him. And he made pretty much a quick spinorama with the puck to get around the guy, put himself in a really advantageous scoring area, put the puck to the front of the net, and the Blue Jackets were able to score a goal off of it. And it was one of those plays that you kind of looked at and went, wow, this kid has a lot of poise on the puck. And so that's, for a defenseman, I think one of the most underrated things you can have is kind of that ability to slow the game down a little bit and play with the puck on your stick. And he's already got that, and he's playing in a league where he's going to get even more of it. So a guy I really like, and a guy that could be a difference maker for the Czechs in this tournament, because they're not necessarily forecast to be one of the top teams, but he's a guy that can kind of dictate play a little bit and really maybe help them surprise some teams as this thing goes on.
Yeah, Stanislav Svozil off to a great start this season with the Regina Pats. He's got a goal and 17 assists, 18 points in 26 games so far this season. And he's actually in top 10 among defensemen scoring there in the WHL so far this season. Really impressive as a first-year player in that league. Like Jeff said, third-round pick by the Blue Jackets this past summer, 69th overall. Was at Blue Jackets training camp, was in that prospect tournament, and he did play in the World Junior Tournament representing the Czech Republic last year. So a guy who's in the tournament for his second time, a little bit more experience. I'll be really interested to see what he does this go-round in the tournament. And, I didn't say this earlier, but again, this is a U20 tournament, so it's mostly guys that have been drafted already or have been draft eligible already, but we will get to some guys a little bit later on that are in the younger crop that will be draft eligible this year and then next season. Some of those really top prospects that we're excited to see. But this is a little bit older of a tournament, so teams already have prospects playing in this tournament. And then Stanislav Svozil, of course, one of those guys for the Blue Jackets. He'll be a defenseman representing Team Czech Republic. So eager to check out Stanislav Svozil. Jeff, let's talk about another Blue Jackets defenseman prospect, and that's Samuel Kanashko, another third-round pick. He was in 2020, 78th overall. He made the transition to North America this year. He was playing over in Finland, but now he's in the WHL himself with the Seattle Thunderbirds. 5 games into his WHL career, he's got a goal and 2 assists for 3 points in 5 games, off to a pretty good start in North America.
Yeah, and it was a move that's happened relatively recently. As you said, he's only played 5 games for Seattle, but he was playing for the junior team, the U20 team over in Finland of TPS, and was dominating over there, but just couldn't crack the senior team's lineup. And I think the Blue Jackets and him kind of realized for his development to continue, rather than keep playing against at the kind of the U20 level over in the Finland. They wanted him to come over and play in the WHL and get big minutes and play against future NHLers and things like that. So that's why that move was made. But he's a guy at the international level. He was the captain of the Slovak team last year. He had a pretty good tournament. And I think he was maybe injured and missed a game somewhere along the line, if I remember correctly. But as a guy that they really like on their blue line, is kind of in the similar same vein as Svozil, where he's solid defensively but brings a little bit of offensive skill as well. Scouts that have been really impressed by that over the years. The thing that's also interesting about him is he played in the World Championships, not just the World Juniors last year, but the World Championships for the Slovak team as well, which was, the men tournament, as you had kind of explained earlier. So this is a guy that has a really good international pedigree, has played a lot of hockey with the Slovak jersey on. I would imagine with him being the captain of the team last year, coming back a year older, he would probably still be the captain again, although that has not been announced yet. But I would think that he's a guy that they're going to count on to be a leader. And kind of that same vein as Svozil, he can dictate some play from the blue line and score some goals. And that's been the thing that's been missing from him at the international level so far. Is he's played well defensively, but he just hasn't had the offensive impact I think scouts had kind of expected him to have at the international level that he has had for the club teams. And so this could be a tournament where maybe he breaks out in that fashion and turns some heads, because certainly he'll be given every opportunity to do so, playing big minutes for the Slovak team.
Yeah, with that in mind, this is a huge tournament for Samuel Kanashko. And like I said, with Stanislav Svozil in the Czech Republic. I'm really eager to see what Kanashko can do with Slovakia, because these are guys that I haven't really been able to see a whole lot before. Like you said, you were up at the Prospects tournament, at least got to see Svozil, but Kanashko, he's completely new essentially to the North American game. So this should be really, really intriguing to see not one, but two Blue Jackets defensemen going at it in this tournament. But of course, the guy that really everybody is excited to watch, and that's not just Blue Jackets fans, that's hockey fans in general, is Kent Johnson, and he's going to be on Team Canada. Of course, Johnson, if you've been living under a rock, was the 5th overall pick at this summer's NHL draft, University of Michigan forward. The Blue Jackets got him this summer in the first round, and by all accounts and everything that I've seen, this guy is the real deal, Jeff.
Yeah, and it's all about skill with Kent Johnson. Some of the moves he can make with the puck on his stick are just unbelievable. How quickly he's able to process the game and make things happen, make passes, make individual plays. It's really unbelievable. And there are some of the highlights from the camp that we've seen so far. And he's missed some time recently. He was out with COVID, so he missed about 2 weeks, but finally got out on the ice these last couple of days. And some of the highlights of the shootouts that the team was doing, just unbelievable things he's able to do with the puck on his stick. It really is incredible. And so he's counted on, as he said, not just Blue Jackets fans are excited to watch him. The entire nation of Canada is excited to watch him. He's a British Columbia guy who ended up playing college hockey, as you mentioned, playing at the University of Michigan. Earlier this year was one of the leading scorers in all of college hockey, with kind of having to miss some games, has been passed by a couple guys. But he can put up points with the best of them at any level. And so he's going to be counted on in a top 6 role as a winger. There's talk that he'll be a center eventually in Columbus, but he's going to play the wing again in this tournament. And it's just pure skill. And they're going to count on him to score, a lot. Not just, to be a goal-a-game guy perhaps, or a point-a-game guy, especially as this tournament goes on and they get into the big games. They are absolutely expecting big things out of Kent Johnson. And if you're a Blue Jackets fan who hasn't had a chance to see him play yet, or have only seen the highlights on Twitter, he's a guy you're going to want to watch. That's just the truth about it, because the things he can do are really incredible. And he's the guy that when Michigan season is over, there's a good chance he'll make his NHL debut with the Blue Jackets and maybe next year be a full-time NHL player. So when we talk about this being the future NHLers and this being the future of the game, Kent Johnson's right at the front of that, because as a guy that was drafted so early and the guy that's producing the way he's produced everywhere he's been, he's going to be a Blue Jacket sooner than later. So you can kind of get in on the ground floor and watch what he brings to the table here at this tournament.
Yeah, I am so excited to see Kent Johnson in this tournament. I've watched him a lot this season at the University of Michigan already. He's got 4 goals, 19 assists for 23 points in 17 games so far this year. Like Jeff said, he was actually the top scorer in the nation for a bit, but he's missed some time being out, so he's not up there anymore. But, he's still up there in the grand scheme of things when it comes to scoring in the country this year. But it's all about skill, like you said, and I am so eager to watch him. I'm probably more excited to watch Kent Johnson in this tournament than I ever have been to watch a Blue Jackets prospect. Last year, I was excited to see Igor Chinikov, but he dealt with some injury. But Johnson is going to get power play time. Like you said, all reports out of Team Canada's camp right now are that Kent Johnson is opening eyes and dropping jaws. And that's not the coaching staff. That's not just the scouts. That's the players on that team, guys that are going to be top prospects, maybe the number 1 overall pick in this year's draft. Shane Wright has come out and said that Kent Johnson is doing things that he couldn't even imagine doing. That's the type of stuff that Kent Johnson's pulling out in Team Canada's camp right now. And, Trevor Zegras is a hot name in the National Hockey League right now for good reason. He combined with Sonny Milano for probably the goal of the year. But everything that I've read and everything that I've seen, people are comparing Kent Johnson to Trevor Zegras. If anybody in this tournament can do the things that Trevor Zegras can do, it's Kent Johnson. And if anybody can have the impact that Trevor Zegras had on the tournament last year, it's going to be Kent Johnson. Trevor Zegras was the guy in the tournament last year, led the tournament in scoring, led Team USA to a gold medal last season with his creativity, with his ability to put the puck in the back of the net. And people are saying that if Team Canada wants to get back on that podium, back with that gold medal around their neck, that a guy like Kent Johnson is going to have that sort of impact that Trevor Zegras had last season.
Yeah, for sure. And Zegras, I believe, set the American scoring record in the tournament a year ago. I think he was it 18 points in 7 games or something like that. So like I said, when I say talking about, Kent Johnson maybe being a goal a game guy, that's kind of the measuring stick is Trevor Zegras a year ago with 18 points in 7 games. Maybe Kent Johnson can have that kind of impact and certainly has the skill to do it. Is he going to be 100% as far as just getting his win back, getting his stamina back since he has missed 2 weeks away from the ice, that kind of stuff. But by all accounts, yeah, as you said, he's turning heads up there. Everyone expects that he's going to be, not just a good player and an important player for Team Canada, but a difference maker. And so, like I said, if you're a Blue Jacket fan who's very curious about what's going to happen here in the next couple of years with Kent Johnson, you can get in on the ground floor, get a chance to watch him right now. And it should be exciting because if you turn in a Team Canada game, odds are you're going to see a lot of Kent Johnson. You're going to see Kent Johnson, creating a lot and really being what he should be in this tournament as a superstar. You're not the 5th overall pick for nothing. So, some really big names in this tournament, but Kent Johnson has the chance to be the biggest.
All right, so that's what it's going to look like from a Blue Jackets perspective. Jeff mentioned it earlier. Excuse me, Jeff. But you said that probably everybody on Team Canada will be an NHL player at some point in their careers. And that extends to guys who haven't been drafted yet. So I want to talk about a couple of these prospects in this tournament that will be draft eligible this season and then the following year. And this is relevant because if the season were to end today, the NHL season that is, the Blue Jackets would have 2 top 10 picks. And that's something really to look forward to this summer in the upcoming NHL draft, what the Blue Jackets can do as they continue to reload here. And the guy that everybody's talking about probably being the top pick this summer is Shane Wright. He's going to be featured a lot for Team Canada, Jeff. He's one of these top prospects. And like I mentioned earlier, he's the guy in Team Canada's camp right now saying, yeah, Kent Johnson's doing things that I couldn't even imagine doing. If that gives you any idea of the type of skill that Kent Johnson has, Shane Wright, a guy that everybody's pretty much had locked in as the number 1 overall pick in this year's draft for a long time.
Yeah, and he was a guy, pretty much all these guys we're going to talk about were players that really dominated the U18 tournament a year ago. And so, by dominate, I think Shane Wright had 14 points in 5 games. It's funny to look at these numbers and, it must be easy being an NHL scout because at the end of the day, when a guy has 14 points in 5 games at the World U18 tournament, he's probably a pretty good player. You don't have to do a ton of scouting to figure that out. But Shane Wright certainly is a guy that I think everybody's going to be watching. If you're a Blue Jackets fan, it seems unlikely the Jackets will have the number 1 overall pick this year. Wheels will really have to come off here the way that the season's gone. But he's a guy that you're going to be watching at the NHL level for a long time. Brings a lot of skill, much like Kent Johnson. Is going to rack up the points. Is going to be a guy that the entire nation of Canada is watching. They're going to expect him to bear a big load, just like Kent Johnson. So it'll be really interesting to see how he plays. And that's one of the fun things about this tournament is, there is usually a guy in this tournament that's going to be, a number 1 or a number 2 overall pick, either this year or in the years coming. And there's a couple guys in 2023 we'll talk about as well. But Shane Wright's that guy for 2022. And it's a name you're going to want to get used to if you're an NHL fan. And here's your chance to see him and see what, how he can do with the bright lights on here at this big tournament.
All right, we'll stick with Team Canada, but you just referenced guys in 2023. Connor Bedard, this guy is being billed as the best prospect to come out of anywhere since Connor McDavid, essentially. That's how good this guy is. I mentioned earlier, this is a U20 tournament. Well, he's made Team Canada at 16 years old. He plays with Stanislav Svozil in Regina. This kid, I've watched a lot of tape on Connor Bedard as well. He is the real deal. He's got an elite shot. If you were to put him in the NHL right now, he'd have a shot as good as probably most guys in the National Hockey League. He's already got one of the best shots in the world. On top of that, he's a fantastic skater and a tremendous playmaker. He's got essentially every tool in the tool chest you could ask for. Right shot centerman. I'm really excited to see what he can do in the tournament. And right now, Team Canada's got him on the same power play as Kent Johnson, so that could be a lot of skill together.
Yeah, you're gonna see some pretty good hockey out of these guys if you're watching Team Canada as this tournament goes on. But yeah, certainly. You've probably watched him more than I have. I know kind of his bona fides. Maybe you just need to be named Connor and if you're a Canadian kid and you have a good chance to be one of the best players in the world, as you said, kind of comparing him to Connor McDavid. But he's another guy that at the U18 tournament was pretty much unstoppable. And again, it's such a young age. And I saw an interview with him recently when the Jackets were up in Canada in kind of the previews for this tournament. And he looks 16. He's definitely a teenager, but he gets out there on the ice and he can do things that nobody else can do. It's pretty unbelievable, and he's that highly of a touted prospect for a reason. And it's always interesting to see, like a guy like McDavid in some of these tournaments when he was younger, the impact he was able to have. They'll expect the same thing out of Connor Bedard. And despite the fact that he's so young, it would not surprise me at all to see him be a guy that fills up the score sheet because of just how talented he is and the success he's had at previous international tournaments. Seems like the big stage does not faze him. So it'll be really interesting to see how this goes. But again, a guy you're going to be hearing a lot about as the years go by because he's going to be a very good chance to be the number 1 overall pick in 2023, were it not for, I think, the next guy we're going to talk about who also pretty much fits the same bill as being an unbelievably skilled player out of Russia.
Yeah, Matvei Michkov. This guy, another guy making his World Junior Tournament debut at 16 years old. If it weren't for Connor Bedard, Michkov would likely be billed as the number 1 overall pick in the 2023 NHL Draft. You think about Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin, that rivalry that's developed over the years. Too early to do that with Connor Bedard and Matvei Michkov, but he can get pretty darn close. These guys will likely go number 1 and number 2 overall in the 2023 NHL Draft. A draft that the Blue Jackets certainly could be involved in when it comes to high picks if, they want to continue this reload on the track that they are right now. And these are 2 all-world prospects in Bedard and Matvei Michkov I'm talking about. But Michkov is another guy. He is going to feature heavily on Team Russia's lineup, or in Team Russia's lineup, I really should say, in this tournament. And all eyes are going to be on him in this tournament, I think. He lit it up at the U18 Worlds, like you've talked about with both Shane Wright and Connor Bedard. Michkov, that was really his welcome to the spotlight. Everybody had heard about him. I don't think anybody had seen about him yet at that point, or really seen him in action. He came to North America. He lit it up down in Frisco at the U18 Worlds, and I'm expecting a big tournament from Michkov here in Red Deer in Edmonton.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. There's just no other way to put it. He's already at age 16 playing for the St. Petersburg team, the senior team in the KHL, getting some games there and does not look out of place. He's scoring some unbelievable goals in the second best league in the world right now. I could be wrong, but I believe his first goal for St. Petersburg was a Michigan goal or something like that. Like, he scored an unbelievable – his first goal was like, oh, my God, like, how did he do that? It was something like that. But, like I say, the skill is unreal. His ability at that age is phenomenal. He's a guy that is probably going to be up there. It would not be a huge surprise if at the end of this tournament, the 4 scoring leaders are Ken Johnson, Shane Wright, Connor Bedard, and Michkov, because he's just as talented as Bedard, it seems like. His offensive skill and creativity is unreal. He's probably playing at the highest level of any of these guys right now, playing in the KHL and getting minutes there. And it's been really impressive so far. And the interesting thing about him when it comes to the NHL Draft is that he's already signed with St. Petersburg through 2026. And so he's projected to be a top pick in 23. Whoever takes him will have to wait 3 more years for him to come over at the age of 21 probably, which is still pretty good. You're going to get a lot of hockey out of this guy. But I think, some teams will probably be a little bit scared off of that at the end of the day. But he'll probably be a guy that's worth the wait because his skill, his presence, his ability to create is unbelievable. One of the best Russian prospects, I think, since Ovechkin, and a guy that is going to be worth the price of admission or the price of NHL Network if you watch this tournament as it goes by.
Yeah, I'll certainly be tuning into at least a couple Team Russia games just to watch Michkov. I mean, they're going to have skill as it is. They're going to be a good team in this tournament, but Michkov, I think, is the straw that stirs the drink, even though he's 16 years old playing in this tournament. I'm fired up to see what he can do, especially, I'm hoping to see Team Canada, Team Russia come together and see what Bedard and Michkov look like facing off against one another. But Jeff, I want to talk about one more guy and bring it back to this year's draft, the 2022 NHL Draft, and also bring it back to Team USA, because obviously we're in the middle of the United States right now, and we've talked about everybody but Team USA right now. Team USA doesn't have a lot of draft-eligible guys on their roster this year. Most everybody has already been selected in the NHL Draft, which bodes well for Team USA. They're going to have a lot of talent. I mean, led by a player like Matty Beniers, who is the number 2 overall pick by Seattle at this summer's NHL Draft and is a teammate of Kent Johnson's up at Michigan right now. But Logan Cooley, he's one of 2, I believe, draft-eligible prospects this year on Team USA's roster. He's a young centerman, but he's billed as a guy that probably will go in the top 10, at the 2022 NHL Draft. And like I said, the Blue Jackets, 2 top 10 picks if the season were to end right now in this summer's draft. So Cooley is a guy that could be potentially in play for the Blue Jackets, but he's really that young guy to look at for Team USA.
Yeah, and it is funny. You're right. We haven't talked much about Team USA up to this point, but they're the defending champs, and they shut out Canada 2-0 in the final last year. A great performance and a very entertaining game. A bunch of guys that you've heard of, if you follow hockey at all, are going to be on this team. As you mentioned, Matty Benier is kind of leading the way, but Logan Cooley is an interesting player. I believe a Pittsburgh native, who's a guy that's performing well up to this point in the year with the U.S. National Team Development Program. Is at the age of 17 in a U20 tournament, they're expecting him to be one of the top 2 centers, I believe. And so a guy certainly to watch. And that is, as we said, kind of the fun about this tournament is not only are you watching the future of the game, but you're watching guys that are going to be drafted soon and could end up wearing the sweater of the Blue Jackets. And he's a guy that seems like he'd be right in that range potentially for the Jackets as a potential top 10 pick, but not quite a Shane Wright guy. So he'll be very interesting to watch. If you're looking for Team USA guys to kind of pinpoint, he's definitely high up on the list because it's a name that you're going to hear a lot about going into the NHL draft a year from now, which is, again, the fun of this whole thing is seeing what's coming up next. And Logan Cooley is a big part of that. And anytime you can see the U.S. National Team Development Program or the U18 or the U20 team, and you see them having success at the international level as well, it's pretty cool to see just how good American hockey has become, and just the talent that is out there. Is really impressive, and it seems like it's getting better every year as this game has grown throughout America over the years. And it's also, another thing that's cool is you're seeing guys from all over the country. The way that the NHL has kind of grown the game and has teams in all over the country. You're seeing California kids and Texas kids and Florida kids. The Blue Jackets have Andrew Peak, for example. The game's really grown, and you're seeing a lot of good athletes playing hockey, and the U.S. national team has really reaped the benefits of that over the last couple of years.
And hey, Team USA never repeated as gold medalists in this tournament before. So a big opportunity for Team USA to run it back like they did in last season. And it'll be hard because Team Canada is stacked. I think they're the favorite in this tournament. Team Finland's going to be good. Team Russia, they'll certainly be right there as well. They've got a little bit different of a roster than they have in years past. They didn't take really anybody playing in North America right now. But Team USA, they're projected to be one of the best teams in this tournament, like they always are. They're going to need their big players to be their big players. Jake Sanderson, who was a top 5 pick a couple years back, a solid defenseman. They're going to have Luke Hughes, obviously, who's another one of Kent Johnson's teammates at Michigan. He was the 4th overall pick this year. They've got some horses on that blue line, and then they've got some good forwards up front, but Logan Cooley, I brought him up for a reason because I want Blue Jackets fans to know who that is. Because, again, season ended today. Blue Jackets would have 2 top 10 picks. Logan Cooley, he's a centerman. You always want to draft centerman. And right now he's projected to go in the top 10. And he's one of those young guys on Team USA that's really, really somebody to watch. So I'm eager to see what Team USA does in this tournament. I will certainly be tuning in, Jeff. I know you will be too. That's all I got for you, man. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It should be a really fun tournament. I enjoyed watching it last year, the way that Team USA played and seeing some of the future stars of the game and future Blue Jacket stars was pretty cool, and it should be the same this year.
All right, everybody, that will do it for this week's edition of the Pipeline Podcast. Jeff Svoboda and I really, really appreciate it, and we will talk to you next time, all right?